Traded by her parents for influence, she was chosen by the Alpha King as his mate. The night was silent when the carriage stopped in front of the black iron gates of the royal fortress. The moon was hidden behind thick dark clouds, as if even the sky itself was afraid of what was waiting inside the castle walls. The wind moved slowly through the tall black towers, making a low whispering sound that felt like ancient voices speaking in warning. She sat inside the carriage without moving. Her name was Alira. She was young, with soft, dark hair falling over her shoulders and tired eyes that had seen too much pain for someone her age. Her hands were folded tightly in her lap. She kept telling herself not to tremble, but her heart was beating like a trapped bird trying to escape from a closed cage. This was the night her life changed forever. Her parents had traded her to gain political influence with the royal court. They had not said it directly in cruel words. Instead, they spoke in soft, careful tones about duty, family honor, and survival. But Alira understood the truth. She was not sent as a daughter. She was sent as a promise of power. The carriage door opened slowly. A royal guard stood outside, his armor dark like night shadows. He did not speak. He simply waited, his head slightly lowered as if even he was afraid of the place he served. Alira took a deep breath. Then she stepped out of the carriage. The ground beneath her feet was made of cold, black stone. The castle walls were tall and sharp, like they were built to keep something dangerous inside rather than to protect the people outside. The guard guided her toward the entrance hall. Inside, the castle was even colder. Huge golden chandeliers hung from the ceiling, but their light was weak, as if the darkness of the castle was slowly swallowing it. Noble servants moved quietly along the halls, never looking directly at her. They knew who she was. The girl traded for influence. The girl chosen by fate, or perhaps the girl sacrificed to satisfy political hunger. Alira had heard stories about the Alpha King since she was a child. They said he was born under a blood moon. They said he could win wars without showing emotion. They said his enemies feared him more than death itself. And they also said something darker, that he carried a curse inside his blood, a curse that slowly turned emotions into ice. The guard stopped in front of huge double doors made of dark wood and silver metal symbols. Ancient magical runes were carved into them. The runes glowed faintly like they were breathing. "This is where you meet him," the guard said quietly. Alira nodded even though her throat felt tight. The doors opened on their own. She stepped inside the throne hall. The hall was enormous. Black marble pillars stretched toward a ceiling painted with old war symbols and forgotten gods. Red banners of the kingdom hung from high walls like silent witnesses. At the end of the hall, sitting on a throne carved from dark stone and silver metal, was the Alpha King. He was taller than she expected. His dark royal coat had silver embroidery shaped like wolves and ancient symbols of power. His hair was black and long enough to fall slightly over his sharp face. His eyes were the most frightening part. They were not warm. They were deep golden eyes that looked like burning stars trapped inside darkness. He did not speak immediately. He watched her. Like he was studying a mystery that had suddenly walked into his kingdom. Alira tried to stay calm. She remembered what her mother used to tell her when she was small. Stay strong in front of power. Never show fear first, so she stood straight. The silence between them felt heavy. Finally, the Alpha King spoke. "You are Alira." His voice was deep and calm, not cruel, not kind either, just powerful. "Yes, your majesty," she said politely. He stood from his throne. Every movement he made felt controlled, like he was constantly holding back something dangerous inside himself. "You are not from royal blood," he said. "No, your majesty. Yet you were sent to become my mate." She did not answer immediately. Because she knew the truth was complicated. "My parents believe it will strengthen their political position," she finally said. He did not react with anger. He actually looked slightly interested, like honesty was something rare in his world. "Mates are usually chosen by destiny," he said, "but politics often tries to control destiny." Alira felt a strange emotion at his words, not fear, not comfort, something between the two. The king walked closer. Each step made her heart beat faster. He stopped only a few steps away from her. Now she could see faint, dark markings under his collarbone, glowing slightly beneath his royal armor. She felt something strange inside her chest when she looked at those marks, like sadness, like recognition. "You do not look like someone who wants power," he said. "I don't," she replied softly. "Then why do you not look afraid?" Because she was afraid, but she had learned to hide fear. I have already lost my freedom, she said. Fear cannot take more from me. Something flickered in his eyes when she said that. Not sympathy, something deeper, something ancient. The king turned away slightly and walked toward the large window overlooking the kingdom. Outside, the city lights were dim under the cloudy night sky. You will live in the royal tower, he said, not as a prisoner, but as my chosen mate. Alira felt her chest tighten. Was that freedom, or a more beautiful kind of prison? The king continued speaking. There are people in this court who will not like you, he said. They will think you weaken the throne. I understand, she said quietly. He turned to look at her again. His golden eyes were sharper now. Do you know about my curse? He asked. She shook her head slightly. He was silent for a moment, then he spoke in a lower voice. My ancestors angered ancient moon spirits when they destroyed sacred temples to gain power. The curse was placed on our bloodline. It removes emotions slowly. Eventually, it turns a ruler into something worse than a tyrant. Alira felt cold fear crawl along her spine. And you, she asked quietly. I am still fighting it, he said. The king looked at her carefully. Something about you weakens it, he admitted. I do not know why, but when you are near, the curse feels weaker. Alira did not know what to say. Instead, she simply nodded. That night, servants guided her to the royal tower. The tower was high above the city, with large glass windows showing the night sky. Her room was beautiful but empty. Soft white curtains moved slowly in the wind. She sat on the bed and finally allowed herself to breathe. She thought about her parents. They had smiled when they sent her away. They had told her she was doing something honorable. But honor felt very cold tonight. She stood and walked toward the window. From there, she could see the king's throne hall window far across the castle. Suddenly, she felt something strange, a pull, like invisible magic connecting her heart to something far away. She placed her hand on her chest. Her heart was beating faster. Down below in the throne hall, the Alpha King was standing alone. His hand was pressed against his chest. Under his armor, the curse marks were glowing brighter than before. He had never felt anything like this. Fear, hope, and something far more dangerous, longing. He closed his eyes. Because he knew that allowing emotions to grow could make him weak. But for the first time in centuries, the Alpha King was not afraid of enemies. He was afraid of loving someone he could destroy. Alira turned away from the window and whispered softly into the silent night. I am not ready to be a queen, she said quietly. Far below, the king felt her words like a promise and like a warning. Then suddenly, the curse marks on his chest glowed violently bright. And in the darkness of the royal fortress, ancient magic deep inside the royal bloodline awakened for the first time in centuries. Because destiny had just chosen two souls who were never supposed to belong to each other. And somewhere deep inside the old forgotten catacombs beneath the castle, something ancient and dark slowly opened its eyes. Waiting, watching, hungry for royal blood, the whispers began at midnight. Alira was sitting on the edge of her bed inside the royal tower when she first heard them. The wind outside was cold, moving through the tall windows like silent fingers touching the glass. The curtains swayed slowly even though there was no storm outside. At first she thought she was imagining the voices, but then she heard her name again. Alira, the voice was soft, weak, like it was coming from somewhere far away, buried under layers of stone and time. She stood slowly. Who is there? She asked quietly. No one answered. But the whispers continued, not loud, not threatening, just calling her name again and again in a language she did not understand, yet somehow felt familiar in her heart. Alira felt fear, but curiosity was stronger. She walked toward her bedroom door and slowly opened it. The royal tower corridors were dark. Only a few glowing magic lamps lit the stone walls. Guards were standing far down the hall, still and silent like statues. She stepped outside her room. The whispers became louder, not from the hallway, from inside the castle walls. Something was calling to her, something ancient, something alive. She followed the sound, quietly walking barefoot on cold stone floors. No one stopped her. It was as if the castle itself was guiding her footsteps. Eventually, she reached a hidden staircase that led downward. Not upward toward royal rooms, downward toward forgotten places. Alira had never seen this part of the castle before. The stairs were narrow and covered with dust. Ancient symbols were carved into the walls. Some of them looked like moon shapes. Others looked like eyes watching her move. The whispers became clearer. Chosen child of moon magic. She felt chills run through her body, but she kept walking. Finally, she reached a heavy iron door at the bottom of the staircase. Unlike other castle doors, this one had no royal symbols. Instead, it had old magical seals that looked cracked and broken. The whispers were now coming directly from behind the door. Elira hesitated. Then she placed her hand on the iron door. The moment her skin touched the metal, the door opened slowly by itself with a deep creaking sound. Inside was darkness, but then soft blue light slowly appeared. She stepped inside carefully. The room was huge and empty except for broken stone statues scattered across the floor. The statues looked like old queens wearing moon crowns. Their faces were damaged by time. In the center of the room stood an old stone circle, and inside the circle stood a woman, but not a living woman. She was a spirit made of soft, glowing blue light. Her hair looked like moving water. Her eyes were tired, filled with sadness older than kingdoms. Elira felt fear, but she did not run. "You came," the spirit said softly. "Who are you?" Elira asked. The spirit smiled faintly. "I am one of the forgotten moon queens," she said. "We were guardians of old magic before the royal bloodline destroyed our temples." Elira felt her chest tighten. "The curse?" she asked. "Yes," the spirit said. "You are here because of it." Elira felt confused. "I am just a girl," she said. The spirit shook her head slowly. "No. You are not just a girl, you are something rare. Your soul can weaken curses by feeling emotions deeply. That is why the Alpha King's curse reacts to you." Elira felt fear again. "Is that dangerous?" she asked. The spirit became quiet for a moment. "Yes," she said softly. "Because the curse inside the king is not just magic, it is something worse." Elira's heart began beating faster. "The royal bloodline carries a sleeping ancient spirit," the queen's spirit said. "Long ago, kings tried to control darkness instead of respecting balance. They destroyed sacred moon temples, so the ancient spirit was trapped inside royal blood." Elira swallowed nervously. "And now?" she asked. "Now it is trying to wake up," the spirit said. "It feeds on emotions, especially fear, anger, and loneliness." Elira thought about the Alpha King. He never showed weakness in public, but she had seen loneliness inside his eyes. "The more he cares about you," the spirit said gently, "the stronger the curse will fight back. Love can weaken darkness, but it can also give darkness a way to attack." Elira felt tears forming in her eyes. "So what should I do?" she asked. The spirit looked at her carefully. "You must decide if you want to stay beside him even if it means facing darkness with him," she said. Elira did not answer immediately, because she was thinking about her life, about her parents, about how they had smiled when they traded her for political influence, about how she had never felt truly loved before coming to this kingdom. "I am not afraid of pain," she said quietly. The spirit smiled softly. "You are stronger than you think." Suddenly, the blue light inside the room began to shake. The spirit's form became unstable. "Elira," she said urgently, "you must leave now. Something else has awakened." Before Elira could ask what she meant, the stone floor began to tremble. Deep below the castle, something moved, something old, something angry. The spirit pushed Elira toward the door. "Go back to the tower," she said quickly. "Do not tell the king about this yet. He is already fighting his own battle." Elira ran up the staircase quickly. Her heart was pounding. When she reached her tower room again, she noticed something terrifying. The royal guards outside her room were unconscious. Not hurt, just sleeping deeply. She stepped inside her room slowly, and then she saw him. The Alpha King was standing near her window. His back was turned toward her. His royal coat was slightly moving in the wind. "Your Majesty," she said softly. He did not turn immediately. His voice was deeper than usual when he spoke. "You should not walk alone in the castle at night," he said. Elira felt something was wrong. "Did you put the guards to sleep?" she asked. "Yes," he said simply. He turned slowly. His golden eyes were darker now, not fully dark, but shadowed, like storm clouds hiding sunlight. "The curse is getting stronger," he said quietly. Elira walked closer to him. "What happens if it wins?" she asked. He was silent for a long time. "Then I will stop feeling," he said. "And when I stop feeling, I will become exactly what my enemies want me to become." Elira felt pain in her chest when he said that. "You are not alone," she said softly. He looked at her like he did not fully believe her but wanted to. "There is something I need to tell you," he said. Elira waited. "The ancient spirit inside my bloodline is trying to break free," he said. "It is becoming stronger because I am starting to care about you." The words felt heavy in the air, dangerous, beautiful, terrifying. "I do not want to hurt you," he said quietly. Elira stepped closer to him. "You are not the curse," she said. but suddenly the curse marks beneath his armor glowed violently bright. The king gasped slightly, like he was fighting something inside his mind. "Elira, go away from me now," he said through clenched teeth. But she did not move. She reached out and touched his chest. The moment her hand touched him, the curse energy exploded outward in waves of dark wind. She saw visions inside her mind, wars, blood moons, ancient kings destroying moon temples, and then she saw something terrifying. The ancient spirit inside the king was awake, and it spoke inside her mind. "Thank you," it whispered. "You brought me closer to freedom." Elira felt fear spread through her body. The Alpha King's eyes turned completely dark for a moment. Then he fell to his knees. And outside the castle, war horns suddenly began to sound across the kingdom, because someone had just sent assassins toward the royal fortress. And the ancient spirit inside the king was no longer sleeping. The war horns were loud. They echoed across the kingdom like thunder trapped inside metal walls. The sound spread through the royal city, waking people from their sleep. Lights began appearing in windows. Soldiers ran across stone streets, shouting orders. Something dangerous was happening. Inside the royal fortress, Elira stood frozen near the Alpha King. "What is happening?" she asked in a shaky voice. The king did not answer immediately. He was listening carefully, like he was trying to understand where the danger was coming from. Then he spoke. "Assassins," he said quietly. Elira felt cold fear spread through her chest. "For you?" she asked. He shook his head slowly. "For you," he said. Elira's heart felt heavy. "Why would anyone want me?" The king turned to look at her. His golden eyes were darker now, like sunlight hiding behind storm clouds. "You are not just a political gift," he said. "You are something far more important. The ancient magic inside you can weaken or strengthen the royal curse." Elira felt scared. She had never wanted to be important in this dangerous way. Outside, soldiers of the royal army were already moving to protect the castle gates. Metal weapons shone under torchlight. Magic barriers slowly formed around the fortress walls, but Elira could feel something else. A strange pull inside her chest, like something was calling her name from deep beneath the castle ground. "I have to go outside," she said suddenly. The king frowned. "No. It is too dangerous." "I can feel something," she said. "Something is calling me." The king looked worried, but he knew arguing would not help. He walked closer to her. "If you go outside," he said quietly, "stay close to me." Elira nodded. They walked together down the long castle stairs toward the main courtyard. The royal city outside the fortress was filled with chaos. People were closing their doors. Soldiers were forming defensive lines. The sky above the kingdom was covered with dark clouds moving quickly, even though there was no natural storm. Magic was at work. The castle gates opened slightly so the king and Elira could step outside. The cold night wind touched her skin, and then she saw them. Black cloaked figures standing on the rooftops around the royal fortress. Assassins, but they were not ordinary soldiers. Their cloaks were decorated with old magical symbols from forgotten kingdoms. Their weapons glowed with dark energy. "They are not from this kingdom," the king said quietly. "Who are they?" Elira asked. "Followers of the old tyrant bloodline," he said. "They want to awaken the ancient spirit inside me fully, and you are the key." Elira felt fear, but she also felt something stronger. Determination. She remembered what the Moon Queen spirit had told her earlier. Love could weaken darkness, but it also created danger. The assassins suddenly jumped from rooftops and attacked. Royal soldiers moved quickly to fight them. Metal clashed against metal. Magic energy exploded in small flashes of light and shadow. The Alpha King moved protectively in front of Elira. He fought like a storm. His movements were fast and powerful. Every time he struck an enemy, dark curse energy flickered around his hands. He was strong, but Elira could see something else. The curse was reacting to battle anger. The marks beneath his armor were glowing brighter. "Elira," he said without turning around, "stay behind me." But then something strange happened. One assassin stepped forward from the chaos. He removed his hood. His face was old, with deep scars and tired eyes. "I did not come here to kill you, king," the man said. "I came to take the girl." Elira felt fear. The man continued speaking. "She is not just a mate. She is a sacrifice meant to awaken the ancient spirit completely. The royal bloodline will fall and new darkness will rule." The king's expression turned cold. "You will not touch her," he said. The assassin smiled slightly. "Then you will have to choose," he said. Suddenly other assassins began chanting dark magic words. Dark chains of magical energy shot toward Illyra. The king moved quickly to block them, but there were too many attacks at once. One dark chain wrapped around Illyra's wrist. She gasped in pain. The magic was not physically hurting her. Instead, it was pulling at her emotions, feeding on her fear. She heard voices inside her mind. "Come to us. You were never meant to belong to light. Your parents already sold your fate." Tears filled Illyra's eyes. But then she remembered something. She was not weak. She closed her eyes and tried to control her breathing. She thought about the Moon Queen's spirit. She thought about the Alpha King. She thought about how he had tried to protect her even when he was afraid of his own curse. Illyra opened her eyes. Instead of fear, she felt calm determination. She pulled against the dark chain. Light blue magic energy began glowing around her hands. The chain cracked slightly. The assassins looked shocked. "She is stronger than expected," one of them said. The Alpha King turned and saw her fighting the magic. For the first time, he did not look like a king who controlled everything. He looked worried, because he knew what was happening. Illyra was awakening her power. But awakening magic too quickly could also make her soul vulnerable. "Illyra, stop!" he shouted, but it was too late. The dark chain shattered into pieces of black smoke. At the same moment, the curse inside the king reacted violently. The curse marks across his chest spread brighter than ever before. Dark wind exploded around him. His golden eyes turned almost completely dark. He fell to one knee, breathing heavily. "Illyra, go away from me," he said painfully. "The curse is trying to take control." Illyra ran toward him. "I am not leaving," she said firmly. She knelt beside him and placed her hand on his chest. The moment she touched him, her magic and his curse energy clashed violently. Visions flooded her mind. She saw the ancient tyrant spirit inside his bloodline. A king from thousands of years ago, a ruler who wanted eternal power and destroyed moon temples to gain control over life and death magic. The spirit noticed her presence inside the king's mind, and it spoke directly to her. "You are the one who weakens me," it whispered. "You are dangerous." Illyra felt fear, but she did not pull away. Instead, she spoke inside her mind. "I will not let you control him." The spirit laughed. "Then you will fall with him." Suddenly, the spirit attacked her mind with powerful illusions. She saw her parents again, smiling as they handed her away. She saw the kingdom rejecting her. She saw the king turning into a monster because of her presence. Pain filled her heart, but she remembered the Moon Queen's spirit's words. Love was not weakness. Love was choice. She rejected the illusions. The blue magic around her grew stronger. The tyrant spirit screamed inside the king's mind. The Alpha King suddenly regained control and grabbed her hand tightly. "Illyra," he said weakly, "you are stronger than you think." But then outside the fortress walls, the ground began shaking. Deep beneath the kingdom, something huge was moving. The ancient spirit was waking up more and more, and somewhere far away in dark, forgotten lands, someone was smiling. Because they had been waiting for this moment, waiting for Illyra to become powerful enough to either save the king or destroy the royal bloodline forever. The ground beneath the kingdom was shaking, not like a normal earthquake. This was deeper, older. Like something huge was moving slowly beneath the earth, waking up after sleeping for thousands of years. People in the royal city were afraid. They ran into their homes and prayed to old gods and forgotten spirits. Soldiers tried to keep order, but fear was spreading faster than magic shields could be built. Inside the royal fortress, Illyra was breathing heavily. The voice inside her mind was still calling her. "Queen, come to us. You were never meant to be only a mate. You were meant to rule." Illyra felt confusion and fear. The voice felt powerful, strong. It promised her freedom, power, and protection. But it also felt cold. She turned toward the Alpha King, who was still kneeling on the ground. He was fighting the curse inside his bloodline. His golden eyes were slowly returning to normal, but his breathing was weak. "Did you hear it?" she asked quietly. He nodded. "The ancient spirit is trying to speak to you directly now," he said. Illyra felt scared. "What does it want from me?" she asked. The king stayed silent for a moment before answering. "Control," he said. "It wants you to betray your emotions. If you accept its power, you will become strong, but you will lose yourself." Illyra felt pain in her chest. "I do not want power if it makes me become someone I hate," she said softly. The king looked at her with tired but warm eyes. "You are stronger than the royal bloodline," he said, "because you still choose kindness." Suddenly, loud explosions echoed outside the fortress walls. War had reached the city gates. Royal soldiers were fighting against more dark magic followers who were trying to break through defensive barriers. Magic lights flashed across the night sky like lightning made of shadows. The Alpha King stood up slowly. "I must go to defend the kingdom," he said. Alira grabbed his hand. "Don't leave me alone with that voice," she said quietly. The king looked at her. For a moment he looked like a ruler carrying the weight of centuries of war. Then he spoke softly. "You are not alone," he said. "Stay strong, I will come back." He kissed her forehead gently. It was not a romantic kiss of passion. It was a promise of protection and trust. Then he left to join the battle outside. Alira stood alone inside the royal hall. The voice inside her mind became louder. "Come to us. The king cannot protect you forever. You were born to become more than a sacrifice." Alira closed her eyes. She thought about her parents. She thought about how they had sold her future for political influence. She thought about how the Alpha King had never treated her like property, even when he was afraid of his own curse. Slowly, she walked toward the royal throne room doors. The doors opened by themselves. She walked outside into the royal courtyard. The battle was fierce. Royal soldiers fought dark magic warriors. Some enemies were using shadow magic to control weapons from a distance. Others used illusions to confuse soldiers. The Alpha King was fighting at the center of the battlefield. Dark curse energy surrounded his hands like moving black wind, but Alira could see something worrying. The curse was getting stronger because he was fighting with anger and fear of losing her. She ran toward him. "Stop fighting alone," she shouted. He turned around quickly. "Alira, go back inside," he shouted, but she kept running toward him. Then suddenly the ground cracked open. Huge dark energy exploded from underground. Black shadow hands made of ancient magic rose from the ground, trying to grab Alira. The voice inside her mind spoke again. "Accept us and this will stop." Alira stopped running. She stood still. The shadow hands slowly moved closer. She felt fear, but she also felt something stronger. Love. She raised both her hands. Blue moon magic began glowing around her body. She spoke loudly. "I choose my own fate." The blue magic exploded outward like soft light waves. The shadow hands burned away slowly, turning into black smoke. The voice inside her mind screamed angrily. "You are wasting your destiny." But Alira answered in her thoughts. "I will not rule with darkness." At that moment, something incredible happened. The moon in the sky suddenly appeared from behind the dark clouds. Its light was bright and pure. The Moon Queen's spirits from the underground temple began awakening across the kingdom. Blue ghostly lights rose from the ground like stars returning to the sky. They were answering Alira's will. The Alpha King watched in shock. He had never seen magic like this before. Alira walked toward him slowly. "The curse must end," she said. The king nodded. "You cannot defeat it by fighting," he said. "You must accept it and then break its power with your soul." Alira took a deep breath. She placed both her hands on the king's chest. The curse marks glowed violently. Dark energy and moon magic began fighting inside a bright light storm around them. Alira entered the king's mind spiritually. Inside, she saw the tyrant spirit fully awake. It was huge, powerful, wearing ancient royal armor made of shadow energy. "You cannot defeat eternity," the spirit said. Alira spoke calmly. "I do not need to defeat you," she said. "I only need to remove your power source." The spirit laughed. "And what is my power source?" Alira smiled softly. "Fear," she said. She showed the spirit memories of kindness. "Love, trust, peace between kingdoms." The spirit screamed in anger because it could not survive in emotions like hope and compassion. Blue light spread across the spirit's body. Then the spirit slowly shattered into glowing dust. Back in the real world, the Alpha King collapsed slightly, but he was breathing normally. The curse marks on his chest slowly disappeared. The war outside also began stopping. Without their leader, the dark magic followers lost their strength. By dawn, peace slowly returned to the kingdom. Days passed. The kingdom celebrated the defeat of darkness, but Alira felt nervous. She did not know if she would be accepted as queen. She stood alone on the castle balcony one evening. The Alpha King walked toward her. "You saved me," he said. "We saved each other," she replied. He smiled slightly. "You are not my prisoner," he said. "You are my equal." Then he removed his royal crown and placed it gently in her hands. "Will you rule beside me?" he asked. Alira looked at the crown, then at him. She thought about everything she had suffered and everything she had gained. She slowly placed the crown back on his head. "I will stand beside you," she said, "not as someone owned by destiny, but as someone who chooses love." The kingdom saw their king and his mate standing together under the morning sun. Peace returned. But far away in unknown dark lands, something older than the tyrant's spirit was watching, and it was waiting, because Alira's story was not truly finished. The newborn future of the kingdom was already beginning to glow with unknown magic.